Attack one, attack them all. That's the rally cry of BC teachers as they escalate their protests against Bill 22.
Chek News at noon with Stacey Ross.
Good afternoon. You are looking at a shot from the Harbour Towers cam as approximately 20,000 teachers and their supporters make their way to the lawns of the BC Legislature in downtown Victoria. The crowd gathered about an hour ago at Centennial Square. From there, they are marching down Government Street to the Legislature, where an official rally protesting Bill 22 is just beginning. Chek News reporter Kylie Stanton is in the middle of it all. She joins us now live from the lawns of the BC Legislature. Kylie?
Thanks, Stacey. Well, as you can see right behind me, thousands of teachers and union supporters are starting to gather here on the legislature lawns at this hour. Many of them carrying flags and signs, pounding drums and chanting their demands, making sure that they're heard. The message today is to stop Bill 22. That's the legislation the government is working right now to bring in to try and put an end to this teachers' dispute that's been going on now for a year and 6 months of job action at this point in time. Now, earlier today, as you mentioned, they gathered in Centennial Square. I spent some time down there and had a chance to talk to a lot of the teachers. Many of them came from far and wide today, some from Up Island and as far as away from Prince George and around the province. They're here today to make sure that their message is clear, and you can see right behind me it is starting to pick up. People will be speaking at the podium. We're expecting BCTF President Susan Lambert to take the stage shortly, and we'll be sure to bring you all of the details later in this half-hour nooncast and at the 5 o'clock news hour.
Now, Kylie, we know that the BC Federation of Labour has had a hand in organizing this rally today. It's not just the BCTF represented here today.
No, not at all, actually. We had the Canadian Auto Workers Union. You can see BCGEU are here too. Many union workers showing their support for the BCTF today.
All right, Kylie, we look forward to hearing more from you a little bit later on in the show. Thanks very much. That's Kylie Stanton reporting live from the lawns of the BC Legislature. Now, throughout the morning, teachers were rallying other unions, asking them to join in today's march and rally. Teachers set up legal picket lines at 21 different government offices in Victoria this morning. They handed out pamphlets encouraging unionized employees not to cross the line to register for strike pay at alternate locations. The pamphlet, which included the BCGEU logo, said in part, an attack on one is an attack on all.
So what we're doing here now is not an information line, it's a legal picket. This is outside of the Labour Relations Board ruling, this is outside of the essential services. We are picketing out different government job sites and union job sites in the city to let them know about what's happening in education, get their support for the Labour rally this afternoon.
The response has been very supportive of the teachers' position. It's for a lot of people it's very confusing right now because information is changing all the time, but in general people are very supportive of the teachers and understand that we need to send a very strong message to the Liberal government that this is not the way the workers in BC want to be treated.
I'm almost 60, I'm just about ready to stop, but I feel very passionate about this, and having seen the changes that have taken place in the classroom and the services that children used to get and are not getting anymore are really distressing. And compounding that is the fact that we feel quite disrespected. So here we are.
Now, BC's Finance Minister Kevin Falcon has issued a statement saying the picket lines this morning were illegal and that the government would be seeking an injunction from the Labour Relations Board to stop further picketing of government offices. Picket lines in Victoria have come down this hour with most protesters at the rally at the Legislature, as you've just seen. Now, this was a scene earlier in the day at the Swartz Bay Ferry Terminal as busload after busload of teachers disembarked, headed into downtown. BC Ferries was warning passengers of very high volumes on early sailings this morning and suggested that other passengers may want to use the mid-island route. The same would hold true as those teachers return home to the mainland later in the day. Now, fears the strike could last longer than 3 days has parents on edge, wondering what they will do with their children if teachers stay out for additional days. In Nanaimo, Kendall Hansen spoke to some parents who are juggling childcare now and are scrambling to make arrangements for the days ahead.
Elijah and his mom Natalie Christensen are spending a lot more time together this week. The freelance graphic designer is having to shift some of her work around because of the teacher strike that's left her son at home.
I feel pretty lucky that I work from home, so I could switch my schedule around because I don't know what other people would do. I think it must be pretty tough on other folks.
All right, so who's this?
Mike Smith also feels fortunate. He's got time off work right now, but knows finding childcare at a reasonable cost is difficult.
Not as much for us. My sister, I'm looking after her kids right now. She lives on the mainland, so they came over this weekend to be with us as the strike goes on.
Some parents are leaving their kids in the City of Nanaimo program during the strike. $35 buys 8.5 hours of care. Remarkably, the program's 20 spots have not filled up.
I'm wondering if parents are looking at all options before they're actually spending money on care.
Hoping to save some money.
And hoping to save some money, absolutely.
And the cost of childcare could be a growing concern for parents as the teachers plan for potentially more strike action for either later this week or an extra day in coming weeks. It's a real possibility that parents would rather avoid.
I mean, depending on how long it went, we'd probably have to look at paying for childcare.
My parents live here in town, so, probably Grandma and Grandpa will be doing a day or two at the park, absolutely.
The parents we spoke to were generally supportive of the teachers and the improvements they want in the classroom.
My view is that, go on strike and fight for what you need, and a lot of stuff they're fighting for our kids, right? So,
in the end, I think we have to support teachers, and I mean, that's a benefit to all of us to have our kids in a learning environment that's fair for everyone.
But parents say caring for their kids when they're expected to work will only get more difficult as the strike marches on.
Now, BC Teachers Federation President Susan Lambert has said teachers will return to their classrooms on Thursday, but she would not say what kind of action, if any, will be taken next week and beyond. All right, it's time to check in now with our assignment editor, Mary Griffin, who's standing by live in the newsroom. Mary, lots of talk about teachers today, obviously.
Teachers all over everyone's newscast now. The march to the legislature and the rally itself, live on the BC Federation of Labor's website. It streams the entire event, including the rally at the legislature, now underway. Now, our cameras were out this morning shooting all these teachers picketing various government businesses in Victoria. We're following up with workers who say they were unable to get into work today as a result of those picket lines. Christian Robinson is working that up for us. And with teachers engaged in the middle of their 3-day strike, many other public sector unions are preparing over the next year to negotiate their own contracts. And our checkpoint and web poll question tonight: should government employees be allowed to strike? Now, to vote on today's web poll question, simply go to our website, www.cheknews.ca. We'll have lots on the reaction, more on the rally wrap up at the legislature, and stories of the day. Stacey, at 5 o'clock.
All right, we'll see all those great stories then and much more. Thanks very much, Mary Griffin. That's our assignment editor reporting live from the Chek newsroom. Today marks the second day of the BC teachers' strike, and thousands of protesters from all over the province are gathered on the lawns of the BC legislature this hour to protest Bill 22, a bill that would force teachers back to work. Chek News reporter Kylie Stanton is live at the massive rally. Kylie.
Thanks, Stacey. Well, in the last half hour or so, there's been thousands of teachers and union supporters who have gathered here and arrived here on the legislature lawns. Right now, the union representatives from unions all spanning the gamut really have taken the stage. They're speaking out to the crowd. Crowd's definitely given them quite the reaction, speaking out about Bill 22. Now, BCTF President Susan Lambert is expected to be getting up on the stage shortly. Right now, joining me, we have BCTF Second Vice President Glenn Hansman. Thanks for joining me, Glenn.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Now, we know today that it's all about Bill 22. That's what we're talking about. But if you could run down for me some of the issues that teachers want to get across to government in that bill.
Sure. Well, teachers want to negotiate a deal at the bargaining table that we have open, and this bill interferes with the collective bargaining process, and it also wraps into the conversation our Supreme Court win that we had last spring. That was the court decision that recognized that Bill 28, 10 years ago, was unconstitutional. That was the legislation that took away our right to bargain class size and class composition and robbed us of all the guarantees that we had around class size and special education that teachers had given up salary and benefit improvements for in the past.
Now let's talk a little bit about the turnout today. I know, like many others here, you came from the mainland. Tell me a little bit about the turnout and the message that this might send.
Well, this is an amazing turnout. We have representation from all 69 of our locals from 60 school districts around the province, but it's our friends in the labor movement who've shown up. That's so heartwarming. There are lots of parents here today too, and we're so gratified by that.
Now this really comes down to the students, the kids who are at home right now on this second day of this strike action. Thinking about that as you're standing here today?
Well, this isn't where we want to be. Taking a full withdrawal services is a last resort option, and that's why we put forward the idea of LRB mediation or even arbitration, which is a rare thing for a union to call for. So we are asking the government to rethink its legislation, hold off, put it into abeyance, and allow the LRB process to play out so that both parties can have a fair say on all the issues they want to bring to the table.
Perfect. Thanks, Glenn. That's Glenn Hansman. He's the second Vice President of the BCTF joining me today. Stacey, we'll have full coverage of this rally today and Bill 22 on the 5 o'clock news tonight. Thanks,
Great.
Stacey.
Thanks so much, Carly. That's Carly Stanton reporting live from the lawns of the BC Legislature. That's it for now. Thanks for joining us here on Chek News at noon. You can join our conversation on Twitter. You'll find me at StaceyRoss_Chek. I'll be back live at the top of the hour with all the latest from the teachers' dispute and the rest of the day's news. Hope to see you then. Thanks again for watching.